Hello? Sound one? Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our forum, the changing business of music, new paradigms for making money. On behalf of the university, I say thanks very much for coming out to hear this. And I'll be your chairman today. I am James Moss Solomon, executive in residence, and I also want to say hi to those in Montego Bay, streaming live at MSBM. What would they say? What would they say on the stage, Stevie? How did them sound, boy? All right. The concept of the forum tonight is about recognizing change as an important stimulus in the industry. The potential of the economic stimulus within this industry goes beyond the restrictions of culture or language, supersedes any specific genres or styles, and with electronic media today, music accessibility transcends political and geographic borders. So why music and not total entertainment tonight? The simple answer is to allow for a start of the dialogue with a portion of the wider industry only, and by so doing allow for the intricate differences of literature, dance, art, theater, cinema, sports production, and other parts of a very large portfolio, give them an opportunity to be discussed at future events. The UWI is not short of interests across faculties and study and research areas that range from Karimak, Reggae Studies Unit, History, Science and Technology, Information Technology, Engineering, and the Law, to name only a few that touch the broader entertainment industry. MSBM is acutely aware of our responsibility. Our focus is to start dialogue that will engender interest within a wide array of services required to build profitable and sustainable ventures for the benefit of the owners and the employees in that industry. To say that music has changed would be an understatement. Music has sometimes advanced at an equal or greater pace than science. The relationship between music and mathematics continues to confound me, and perhaps the next great breakthrough will be the quadratic computer that will allow for the next quantum leap for human knowledge. But before we get there, we need to understand the basics of the change. To do that, we have assembled a team of well-equipped minds to lead that discussion. And we have invited Ms. Scarlett Dillon, Administrative Director of Headline Entertainment, Mr. Stephen Newland, singer, lead singer, Roots Underground, Mr. Mikey Bennett, perhaps one of Jamaica's best-known producers, Mr. Clyde McKenzie, entertainment consultant, and Dr. Maurice McNaughton, Director of the Center of Excellence for Information Technology Enabled Innovation at the Mona School of Business and Management. Please help me to welcome them. To do, I must bring apologies on the Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences, Professor Dugan, who is unable to be with us. But to do the official welcome, I invite Professor Denzel Williams, Executive Director of the Mona School of Business and Management, to do the official welcome.
Thank you very much, Chairman Mr. Jimmy Moss Solomon. Let me firstly recognize our sponsor, represented by Mrs. Deborah Lopez Pence. Let me recognize our Deputy Executive Director, Dr. Lila Rao Graham. Let me similarly recognize the other members of the head table, who Mr. Masalam has actually introduced already, so I won't go over that. Other distinguished ladies and gentlemen in the audience, Mr. Masalam said I should do an official welcome. I don't think I can do a more official welcome than what he did earlier. So I'm going to take this opportunity to say welcome all to this important forum. Now, this evening we are competing really against with another important forum in the university calendar. As you would know, this is Black History Month, and some would say in Jamaica Rex Nettleford Month. So this evening they have a tribute to the late Professor Rex Nettleford at the Little Theatre, I think it is. And so a number of university persons are also attending that function, so we apologize on their behalf. But let me just say, I'm very happy that you were able to join us this evening to host this important discussion on the changing landscape of the music industry, and to speak more specifically about something that I love to talk about, and that is how you make money. Yeah? Because at the end of the day, it is important that whatever you do, you can actually create some value from it, but you can make a living. And so I think it was quite opportune for us to think about, as Jimmy has put in context, this idea of the music industry, the changes that have been taking place in the industry, and to see how those changes can help you to position your product in a better way so that you can make a living from it. We're not saying that we are actually unbridled capitalists, James, but at the same time, people who actually offer their services, they actually want to make sure that they can get a return on their investment for this. And so today, as a business school, I think it is important that we lead the discourse on how you actually structure the industry so that the players within the industry can get greater value for the investment that they have put into that industry. And so today we have a good lineup of speakers. I am pretty sure that I am nowhere as competent as any of them. We're sitting here at the head table to better structure the argumentation around how you actually look at the changing landscape in the music business, and how you actually position the players within that industry in order to get greater return on the investments that they have given. I think it's an important discussion to have. But more importantly, I think the Mona School of Business and Management, once again, is displaying that we are not merely about doing academic research for academic research purposes, but we are here to advocate on critical issues that are shaping the landscape of the business environment within Jamaica and the wider Caribbean region. And this is one of those important dialogues in that series of dialogues that we're having to help people to better understand how the market structure will impact on their abilities to actually generate value for the products that they actually create. So we welcome you again to this important forum, and we really look forward to a vibrant discussion. We look forward to the presentations, and we look forward to your questioning so that at the end of the day, we can have a better understanding of the things that are shaping our music landscape. And before I end, I'm actually just seeing our chairman of the board of directors, Ms. Mina Israel. I actually thought you were at the other function as well. Welcome. So ladies and gentlemen, again, welcome all, and I hope you have a very good evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Williams. And we have a sponsor who has been with us through most of our forum. I think perhaps all of them. And it's particularly nice that our sponsor, main sponsor tonight, along with Solada, the Scotia Bank, has consented to have Mrs. Deborah Lopez Spence, who is Vice President of the Small and Medium Enterprises Unit at Scotia Bank, to come and just say something on behalf of the sponsors. I think it is particularly fitting because Deborah is the granddaughter of one of Jamaica's greatest musicians, keyboard artist, orchestral leader, Mr. Wiley Lopez. And I would like you, I think Deborah, it's wonderful that at a music forum like this, the first one we're putting on, that you are here with us. I know I just go back to my own childhood when Wiley was a great orchestral leader here. I think he started me in my own music career by inspiring me to want to play in a band. This year makes 50 years from I made that mistake. But please welcome Deborah.
Definitely a much simpler time back then when this album was made. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished panelists. It's really a pleasure to be here with you on behalf of Scotiabank. Scotiabank's mantra for small business is your passion, our solutions. And we're here to provide you with advice and holistic solutions so that you can, in fact, make your passion a success, however you define that success. The saying goes, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And not everyone has the opportunity to make a living or to make a life from their passion, from their music. As Mr. Solomon has told you, I come from a musical family. My grandfather was a very well-known pianist, and some of my fondest memories of childhood were sitting on the edge of his bench while he played some of what you heard earlier this evening, Charlestons and waltzes, and my favorite, which just happened to be Linstead Market and Sly Mongoose. Never got old. It was the 1930s, and he started a band while at Jamaica College with his cousin Donald and some of his friends, and the rest is, as you say, history. And he had a fulfilling career in music. Incidentally, he was also a rum salesman for Ray and Nephew. In fact, at the time, he was the only rum salesman for Ray and Nephew. But there really wasn't an event that didn't call for Wiley Lopez to play at it. And the funny thing was that he played 100% by ear. He didn't know a note of music. But you could hum something to him and he could play it almost immediately. And he often joked that the only keys he knew were a house key and a car key. And in fact, he's on record saying it in an interview. If he was paid to play for an hour, he played for 3, or often way more than that. Just got lost in his music and the joy that it brought to everyone around him. He was a professional and he had an impeccable reputation, which is so important in this industry. And there's a funny story that I just wanted to share with you, if you'll indulge me. He saved up his fare to travel to England, back then by ship. And each night the ship band would play till about 9 p.m. in the dining room. And on seeing them wrapping up for the evening, he asked permission to play. Well, before he knew it, the guests were pushing tables and chairs aside. The band jumped back in. They were tuning in to play with him. And the guests, the entire ship, danced the night away till like 3 in the morning. And that happened every night until they hit the port in England. And upon his exit, they actually handed him back his full fare and sent him on his way. Which, he still, till his dying day was a little surprised about. My grandfather did not retire a rich man, at least not rich in money terms. But as his doting grandchild, as I watched him age with somewhat of a constrained financial resource system in place, I couldn't help but think that he had been exploited somewhat throughout his prime years in his musical career, and that he should have had much more to show for it all, although that notion would never have actually occurred to him. But needless to say, he left a legacy behind him. Memories etched in the minds and hearts of his generation and many generations after that, certainly in mine. And it's my hope that many of you will blaze your own trails. I know that my good friend Stephen Newland, or as we used to call him, Stevie G, because we've known each other forever, I see you blazing your trails. But, I certainly would, ask the question of you all, what will be your legacy at the end of it all? This is a really important question. to answer, put another way, in business terms, what's your vision? What's your mission? And these are questions that you must answer. They're questions every business owner must answer. And the business of music is really no exception. In running any kind of business, certain principles will always apply. You simply must have a detailed business plan of how you plan to get to where you're going. That's your roadmap, your blueprint, whatever you want to call it. But that is really going to be critical to your success. You must have sound record keeping. And I'm not talking about the old vinyl kind. Because at the end of the day, that's going to be how you keep score. It's going to be how you keep a record of the kinds of decisions that you're taking. And finally, because I really don't want to get into too much of the nitty-gritty of running a business, but you need to ensure that you surround yourself with the right expertise. And that obviously includes your agents, your lawyers, but it also includes accountants, because for most artists, the furthest thing from their mind is bookkeeping and the principles of accounting, but it's essential, and so it's essential that you have someone in your life that you trust that is going to help you, to keep you on the straight and narrow, if you will. But also you need to ensure that you have a banker as a partner. And that's really where Scotiabank comes in, is your financial partner. And so I would just say that, running a business certainly takes passion, and I'm sure there is limitless passion in this room, but it also takes discipline, and it takes a different kind of fortitude, because it's an absolute roller coaster, and I know many of you would have experienced that. But if you do it right, with the right plan, with the right tools, and the right partners, it will be enormously rewarding at the end of it all. So I encourage you to choose Scotiabank as your financial partner. As many of you know, we celebrated 125 years in Jamaica last year. And that really demonstrates that we are fully committed to Jamaica. We're committed to the development of the music industry, and we're committed to your success. And so I really encourage you to come in and talk to us at one of our branches island-wide, or give us a call, or visit our website. There are a lot of tools and resources out there that you aren't even aware of, most of which are free, that will enable you to put this framework in place to get on with your journey, and to ensure that you unleash the full potential of your passion, of your vision. So, ladies and gentlemen, I ask that you enjoy your evening, and that you absorb everything that you hear, everything that you see. And I thank you for listening to me talk about my grandfather a bit. And I wish for you all success and abundance for 2015 and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deborah. We now get into our presentations. Each of our speakers has 10 minutes, and I'll keep them strictly to it. To lead us off, they're going to be speaking in the order which they appear, because we thought that, the constant Beauty and the Beast, we would save the beauty for the wrap-up. But let us welcome our first presenter, Dr. Maurice McNaughton. Not necessarily the beast.
Beast mode. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, distinguished members of the panel, distinguished members of the audience, ladies and gentlemen. It's a real pleasure to be able to participate in this forum this evening. I don't know whether to thank the convener of the forum, Sir Jimmy Moss Solomon, for convincing me to participate, or whether to be upset, because every time I look at the panel of speakers, I I said, well, these guys are all experts in this domain. What am I doing here? And, you know, what I've found generally is whenever in doubt, I speak about technology. So for the moment, what I want to do is suggest to you that we consider music simply as a creative arrangement of bits. And if I do that, then it gives me purchase to talk about what I know, which is technology. So in essence, what I'm going to discuss is the whole notion of digital music and the way that this has transformed the music value chain and the kinds of challenges and opportunities that that has created for performing artists, for production houses, for distributors, retailers, and for consumers, as a matter of fact. So that is, in essence, how I want to approach this. And let me start with some fundamentals here. So we're in the digital age, and there are a couple of laws that dictate what happens with what we call information goods, of which digital music is one. So the first is Moore's Law. Every 18 months, the processing power of computing infrastructure doubles, and the cost cuts in half. So what you can do today with computing power processors, laptops, phones, is what we're doing with mainframes in the 70s, right? And so it means that the ability to do sophisticated digital signal processing on a standard PC gives persons with a computer access to the kind of sophisticated production infrastructure that studios used to have in the past. That's one. More important is Metcalfe's law, which says that the value of a network equals the square of the number of users. And this is just about the internet, right? And you can just think peer-to-peer music distribution, Napster, BitTorrent, and others that thrive on the notion that the internet has become so pervasive. The third issue is Gilda's law, that as fast as computing power is reducing in cost, as fast as the network is expanding, the amount of globally available bandwidth grows at least 3 times faster. So that really just enables the possibility of music streaming music distribution over the internet, right? And so these are fundamental laws of the digital economy that have transformed the music value chain. So that the character of music, it's no longer a physical product to manufacture. Instead, the product itself is information. It's a digital asset. And this has some important implications, which I know my more esteemed and knowledgeable colleagues will discuss, right? But the truth is, once developed, information-based goods, whether it's digital music, software, e-books, can be reproduced and distributed at essentially zero marginal cost. So the real cost is in the production, and then you can distribute that endlessly. That has some important opportunities and some threats as well, right? You think about peer-to-peer networking. So I buy one copy and I distribute it to 100 or 1,000 people for pretty much little cost. But it also makes the product amenable to unbundling, rebundling, mixing, and mashups. So that in days when I was growing up in the 70s, I used to buy albums. Nowadays, you buy one music or you go online and you assemble your album as you wish, right? So the digital product lends itself to much more creativity at the consumer side. And so as a result, the digital music market has become what we call a virtual value chain, where information is essentially the product that passes through that value chain. And so that has some important consequences for the music value chain. Dramatically reduced production and distribution costs, lower coordination costs, which means that disintermediation can take place. The producers can go directly to the consumer and forget about all of these retail and distribution outlets. As you said, it's no longer a physical product. The consumers have significantly greater power. And also, as a result of the internet consumer demographic that is changing as well. In preparing for this, I spoke to my son this morning and said, well, because he's constantly playing music. I said, where do you get your music from? He tells me about BitTorrent and Spotify and Spot Download and all kinds of things. I said, have you ever bought a CD? He said, what's that? He's not interested in that. He's entirely about digital consumption of digital music. So that demographic drives the nature of the value chain. It also presents increased opportunities for so-called value-added information services. So in addition to the music itself and some of the traditional products around that, there's now a collateral set of information services that become possible. And what this lends itself to is both a reduction in the total value in the distribution chain, but also a redistribution of the total profits across the music value chain. There was a time when the producers and the labels used to control maybe 35%, 40% of the value in the chain. You know, look at the iTunes as the digital retailers controlling a significant amount of the economic activity in the value chain. So a significant redistribution, and Jimmy tells me I only have 3 minutes left. Let me move along. And, you know, there's some interesting academic articles around this. We probably don't have time to speak about them, but this, for instance, represents the traditional industry market structure and value chain, and now the changing digital music industry market structure and value chain, which again suggests that there's significant disintermediation of the traditional manufacturers, distributors, and retailers, because producers now have the ability to go straight to the consumer or go straight to the retail channel. So this creates opportunities for a new set of business models. Of course, the digital music retailers dominate this space. So the iTunes, the Amazons, the Google Plays, but also opportunities for other kinds of entrepreneurs with informational products like JamaicanMusic.com, right, which is now getting into distribution but started their business around creating a set of informational collateral around Jamaican music, creating games around Jamaican music, and a whole host of products. I think earlier this year they surpassed Digicel as the Caribbean company that has the highest fan base on Facebook, some 3 million. It also gives rise now to independent producers, distributors, and retailers who can use the internet and YouTube to manage their entire value chain. Right? So take DJ Power and what he did with Can't Cross It, right? Just a computer, production, distributing it by YouTube, and you can manage your entire value chain. There's an interesting product which you probably won't have time to talk about. It's called Shazam. So now the music business, like other industries such as banking and finance and retail, are getting into predictive analytics, so that, well, maybe we'll get some time to talk about Shazam. And then the whole idea of peer-to-peer music sharing, friend or foe. In a sense, you can think of these peer-to-peer networks, whether it's Napster or some of the other emerging ones, BitTorrent, as enablers of music distribution or pirates of copyright. And there's some interesting perspectives around that. And finally, I want to ask the question, what does all this mean for the future of the performing artists? So those are interesting models. That's JamaicanMusic.com, a really impressive site, which is really about content. The Shazam effect, I have to say, Jimmy, if I have time, a minute about. Shazam is an app that has been around for maybe 10 years or so. What Shazam does, it's free, you can download it. Any music that you're listening to, you can play through Shazam and it tells you what the music is. So these guys have created this enormous, and I thank Jimmy and Clive for that little reference to Shazam, have created this enormous database of these musical snippets, and so it can recognize any music. And so that's great, that's quite convenient for a consumer. But what the Shazam people now are doing at the back end is taking all that data about what people are listening to. And they're doing enormous BI, some of the stuff that myself and my colleague are doing around banking data, predictive analytics to figure out what is the next big thing, right? So in a sense, before it hits the sales, before it hits the retailers, you can understand what people are listening to, and they have some impressive visualizations where you can see how music trends are emerging. So that's quite impressive. And, you know, let me finish on this. What of the performing artists? Well, you may ask yourself the question, does the creative artist become obsolete in this digital age, right? Because if I can sit with a computer and assemble bits and then distribute it, what about the performing artists? But the interesting thing is that there's a reverse effect taking place where concerts, shows are now the more significant earning opportunities for artists. And people still like the idea of going into a place, hearing real music, seeing performances. It is the experience, right? So, of course, unless it's a Mariah Carey performance, that's another matter. But generally speaking, for me, my greatest experience was going to the North Sea Jazz Festival with my dear wife about 40 years ago and hearing Miles Davis and Sarah Vaughan. And you can't replicate that on digital medium, right? So there's still room for the performing artists. But anyway, I leave it to my colleagues to tell us what all this means. But absolutely no question that this whole value chain has shifted significantly. Thank you.
Thanks, Maurice, for setting the stage here. Next, the man of entertainment, the man who knows a lot about this industry, Clyde McKenzie. Welcome.
You haven't started the clock yet, Jimmy? Okay. First of all, let me start with a disclaimer, because you spoke about the beauty, and I want to disabuse you of any notion that I have the mark of the beast. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, it is wonderful to be here, listening to Mrs. Lopez Spence reminisce on her grandfather and how he influenced her love of music. It would be remiss of me if I didn't make reference to my own father, who was not as renowned as Wiley Lopez, but who really provided me with a love of music, which has, sustained me to this day, My sister Shireen there in the audience, she can tell us about his love of music. I want to, just acknowledge a few people inside here, and I want to acknowledge my friend over there, Mr. Joseph Bogdanovich, who is a significant investor in the local music industry. Just want to say, nice of you to be here, Joe. And there are so many others who have made their contribution to the Jamaican music industry in their own way. Now, Dr. McNaughton, he spoke of the concepts of disintermediation and all these nice theoretical constructs. And believe me, they're important in the analysis of what has happened in the music industry. I saw firsthand the collapse of the recording industry as we know it. I remember being a part of the B-Demand management team and had to really do a lot of the traveling on his behalf. I remember in the initial phases of his contract with Virgin Records, when I, as a member of his management team, would travel first class. I would be provided with accommodation at the finest hotels in Los Angeles. And this would happen almost on a, like a fortnightly basis. Yeah, you go down to Los Angeles, you stay at Santa Monica, Le Parc, and all these fabulous places. My brother Ralston, who I just see coming in here, yeah, he is someone who also had to be involved in that kind of an arrangement. And all of a sudden, in very short time, I remember the record company start saying, first of all, we can pay for you to travel coach. And after that, they started to tell me you had to pay your way if you wanted to come down here. It was dramatic. And it is the kind of disruption that, and the collapse of the whole structure of the music industry that people talk about disruptive innovation. You know, people like Christensen talk about disruptive innovation. That is the kind of thing where, because of the advent of this digital phenomenon, everything disintegrated. And what happened is that the business model that we were accustomed to was upended. And what we are now looking at is a situation in which the model, which was predicated on touring being a booster for the sale and promotion of your recorded products, was inverted. And in point of fact, you now almost have to give away your recorded products free, I mean, with slight modifications. And you have a situation now in which it is touring that is the most lucrative segment of that business value chain that the previous speaker spoke about. Now, a lot of people have embraced the digital phenomenon because we see it as a more democratic process. The barriers to entry have been lowered, and so more people can come in because things are not as complex. You know, I mean, I can be a very poor singer, and because of the technologies available, I can sound like Mariah Carey. Now, I say all of this to put a little bit of caution on some of the enthusiasm, because with the collapse of the barriers to entry has come a significant amount of clutter. Now, the question is, how do you navigate the spaces so that you can differentiate yourself, distinguish yourself in that clutter of information? I have noted that the social media has privileged gimmickry. In other words, if you have that capacity to do things that will make you jump out and people see you, the way Psy did it with Gangnam Style, people will pay attention because it was about the invisible dance and all of that, which caught the attention of people. And we've seen it time and time again on the internet, where people who are able to do things that are offbeat are able to jump out of the clutter and are able to really grab some attention. This is a significant part of what we're going to have to be doing. Now, I mean, there are other approaches that people take in terms of search optimization and things like that, and how you position yourself on the internet, which I don't want to go into in too much detail. But suffice it to say that the approach that we see people like Saya with what is Chandelier, you know, where she has Maddie doing all this dancing and all of that, these are the kinds of things that we have to think about in terms of grabbing attention. There's another thing that artists have to do now, because with the collapse of the earnings from the recorded segment of the business, what is happening now is that record companies, when they do sign you, they're looking for what they call 360, which is they want a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and they go into areas which they normally would not have gone into. So now it is more important for artists not just to be performers, but to be brands. Because now you have to have more than just a voice. You have to have personality, you have to have appeal, you have to have cachet. The other thing that most artists are recognizing is that they have to be engaged in things sometimes outside of themselves. You see a lot of artists doing the kinds of things that Bono does, getting involved into ideas and concepts which are larger than themselves. Shaggy, what he does. I mean, what my friend Stephen does with his environmental issues. These are the kinds of things sometimes which will get you and embed you into certain core constituencies that are sometimes necessary. So particularly if you have a passion, it is best that you try to enlist others through that passion. So that's a significant part of what an artist should do. So we see now a lot of artists going into their own foundations. I mean, you saw Yellow Foundation with Wycliffe and all of these things. It is very, very important that you get yourself involved as an artist in things that are bigger than you are. I think, Jimmy, that's where I should take my leave. So if further questions, yeah, I have a minute. Okay. So for me, as I said, the music industry, it's still, I would say, lucrative if you know how to get your way around. There have been significant challenges for Jamaican artists, particularly when they don't understand the dynamics of the international political arrangements. And we have seen those challenges, and I think we have been now better at navigating these challenges than we were a few years ago. I think that we are in a position where we can plug ourselves into the music industry in a better way internationally than we were before. The days of being signed to multi-album deals that Mikey Bennett was familiar with, you know, as a big producer, those days are long gone. You know, we have to think now of new approaches to securing money and in really investing in ourselves as artists, as people in the music industry, because we've had pretty low levels of investment in the whole creative industry. That's another discussion, and I don't want to take any liberties with Jimmy's time. Thank you very much.
We next welcome Jamaican legend, record producer, but even a better songwriter, Mikey Bennett.
Good evening, friends and colleagues. Colette and I was talking earlier. One of the things about these seminars, once or more than two of you, and you have your paper. After each person, you just keep deleting. So I'm going to start at the bottom of the paper now. Most of us in the music industry made emotional decisions for the investment. And as such, we were afraid to look at numbers. Numbers were the last thing we wanted to look at. And in the 80s, this was probably aided by some folks in America who seemed to have lots of excess cash, that they wanted to throw at the industry. Most of us didn't question the legitimacy of this cash, but it created a lot of false values, false expectations, false hopes. I mean, I was a part of a concert that was held in a venue that couldn't hold 100 people, yet it was the biggest paying gig that me and most of the people got. And I heard some of the artists say, boy, listen, this is how it must be. So nobody did the math, we didn't look and say, boy, myself, because I was in charge of the group, when I saw the venue, I just started to fret, because I'm saying, listen, we're leaving here without any money. Not the case. We got paid real quickly. And this is the thing. Like when I'm in doubt, I speak about the artist. There's this notion in Jamaica that there's this abundance of raw talent running around for us as producers to get to. Nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing could be further from the truth. 2 or 3 years ago, Jamaica had at least 10 athletes running sub 10. I don't know if you understand what that means in a world of athletics. We had over 10 athletes running sub 10. That means 10 years ago, any of them could have won the Olympics. That's a serious, serious situation. Was it by accident? No. There is an infrastructure that is just begging to be duplicated and copied by every other industry in Jamaica. And this is one of starting at the very beginning. Most of us, well, all of us went to primary school. And one of the first things that happened to us, we were put in a house. There was a sports day that we looked forward to. Records have been kept from sports day from whenever. And these records were moved on. You went on from that to high school, got into a house as well. Sports day was a big thing. It wasn't a big thing as it is now because there were that many scholarships happening. Now, so Boys Champs is one of the biggest, it's probably the biggest event of that nature in the world. It's not by accident. It is by a process, something that worked, and we continue to make it work. There was a method of establishing a career path, looking at talent, creating talent, and little by little, experts. And we went away and we got the expertise, and some of us were glad, came back to Jamaica and said, listen, let us apply that. Now, if you can imagine if we ever had a system like that to deal with the music industry, what we could be talking about. We would be talking about different situation here today. I mean, in here we'll be full of bankers trying to, how can I become a part of that? It is much easier, with a conversation, it is much easier in Jamaica, however, as hard as it might be, to get sponsorship for a show than to get sponsorship for a writer's boot camp. I'm hoping one day the Bob Marley Foundation will just give us a hint as to the kind of money that the publishing has brought to that industry. So we should be looking at, in the schools where we have all these literature teachers jumping over themselves, teaching Shakespeare and all this thing, looking at how can we create some better writers? Where we have all of these music teachers singing all of these things, how can we create some better singers? It has to start from there, Parents have to become interested. A friend of mine has a sports goods store. And he said that the year that Baby Gardner got his contract, he sold more football boots in that year than he had sold in the past 10 years. Why? Here was an alternate career path. Now we're in a country of, exactly what is taking place in the country. And we need some alternate vocation for youngsters. And it has to start at that primary school. So music can't be the thing that you'll go to when the welding thing not working out. And if you listen to a lot of the old stories, it's remarkable how many of our superstars left the welding shop, Bob Marley did. A number of them had to left welding to go into music. And music was seen as it's not the thing. There is something now called the reggae revival that a lot of people having a problem with the name. And let me tell you what is so special about the reggae revival. It is showcasing some of the brightest young people in Jamaica. Albeit that they have Rastafari as the thing, but they are some of the brightest, and it's not hurting that they're musical. And a lot of them happen to have parents in the industry so that they didn't have to hide to the music, but they were encouraged to do the music because, listen, it worked for me, go in and make it a little better. Jimmy and I did something recently. Well, not recently, quite a bit. We're trying to get some corporate Jamaican, entities to invest in bands. Scotiabank is the only one that did. Adopt a band. And in looking, because we saw this coming, we saw that as Clyde said, the future Jamaican earning music had to do with people going on the road and playing. So we took the time out to look at some figures. Now, recently, I'm involved in a project with Scotiabank, trying to rehabilitate the KPH. So we're planning this big function, and we're looking around for superstars. So we got a figure from this young lady. Anyway, she was $300,000 US. That's where I started the conversation at. I said, wow. Now in Jamaica, you know, based on our thing, we have only 6 people earning about $50,000 in Jamaica right now, earning between $30,000 and $50,000. Who cannot earn it regular? Who can get this? You know, we have about 4 people. We have about 12 people earning between $15,000 and $30,000. Yes, and as you can imagine, the bulk of the thing falling way below, down to $2,000. And what does that say? It's speaking about the experience. And I can tell you one thing, I went to Sumfest recently just because of a rehearsal I heard at my place. And I said, listen, I really want to see how Jamaica react to this. It was Taurus Riley, react to this show. I went to Sumfest, and for the most part, I was very, very disappointed. I found that we don't know how to perform. The experience is not a good one. So as much as I'm we're trying to sell an inferior product. I remember going to a Burning Spear show. I was in New York doing an album with Aswad, and they were opening for Burning Spear, and I said, "What you opening for Burning Spear?" They had the song on the chart, and I said, "Yes." When I went to the show, Aswad did a great show as usual, but when Burning Spear came on, it was a total different experience. As if we were transported to some place where it was just filled with drums and the spirit was, and mostly a white audience, but they were jumping. I got caught up in the situation because this was an experience that I've never had in Jamaica. And I'm saying, and I've been to numerous shows in America where it's as if we're chastising, we're blaming the audience for coming out, and nobody cares about the experience. But the thing about it, although it's an art, it can be broken down to a science. Performance can be taught. Athletics can be taught. Performance can be taught. I was so happy recently, a young fella that I have a lot of great hope for, and everybody said, boy, I'm sure boring. Called me and said, boss, I hear that you know something about this thing. Can I trust it with my thing? I said, listen, I can steer it to the right people. I know exactly the people to talk to, because that's the nature of the thing. Without the experience, like I say, half the people will forget what you say, but nobody will forget how you make them feel. They will remember that forever. So my time up.
I don't know if I'm going to give him a big billing. Come up here, my nephew.
Thanks, Uncle. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I was told to present a PowerPoint, but if I do that now, I'm going to look like a dunce spot compared to Mikey and Clyde and everybody. But thank you very much for having me here. You know, Uncle, thank you for inviting me as well. And I think that I'm here representing the other side of the fence as a musician, as somebody who, when our band began and started touring at the turn of the century, it was right when the end of that reggae, what do you call it, money trade, Clyde, was ending, you know, collapsed. It started collapsing, but we were able to hold on the back of the caboose, right? Now, Roots Underground, you know, we've been playing since 2000, as I mentioned before. It took us 6 years to start touring. It took us lots of groundwork, lots of rehearsal, lots of money spending. Jimmy's son is in the band with me. You know, he and I work full-time jobs for the first 5 years of the band just to get us off the ground, right? And it was really a good experience for us because while doing this, we were able to learn things that I don't think a lot of artists had ever experienced before, due to the general formula was that you become a big hit in Jamaica, the radio supports you heavily, you then go away and you're making a very good amount of money where you're flying first class, you're staying in 5-star hotels, etc. We didn't really experience that, you know. When we started touring, it was like 7 of us in 2 hotel rooms sometimes. Sometimes we never had any rooms, you know. We'd play the show 15 hours to the next city, right? And we did that for 3 years, I think. And, you know, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and definitely not what we're accustomed to, but we recognize the changes that were happening. And the first thing I'd have to say is, do you view it that you're trying to make a hit in music or an impact in music, or are you trying to build a career in music? And the two things are very, very different things. So that is the kind of preemptive intro I'll give myself. So let's just talk about quickly some of the tools that you need, of course, to do the guerrilla style or to do it as a celebrity, you know. Definitely good publicity. I can see Carl at that end is Roots Underground's publicists are part of our team, and they've been excellent from we were babies till now. And of course, in guerrilla world, to your publicists is, you know, all the people in the industry, people who you're nice to, people you build rapport with, people who are impressed with your cause, with your point of view, with the way you express yourself, with the way you deal with other people, etc., because they'll help you to push forward your music and push forward your initiatives as well, right? Which, of course, personal rapport and networking is very, very important, as I mentioned, you know. The blog thing, I've never really been an expert. I don't even really exactly understand like how it's rooted or how it's done, but I know it's very important because it's just another method in this digital age of how we're communicating, and it's something that it's not touched upon in the songs or on the live stage. This is now going to be talking about, you know, they describe what you're wearing and the type of charisma you have off stage, and they're doing things for you that you could never do for yourself or even your own publicist can't do for you. So those are very important also. Of course, hosting sites, we mentioned Shazam and some other, you know, cutting edge ones. We won't get into the details. But of course, these can definitely help us because it gives us an opportunity to let people know what we're dealing with without having to sell it or give it away for free. Very important, right? One of them I can mention is SoundCloud. So Protege, my good brethren, you know, taught, I think, a lot of artists this method where when he releases his album, he did a big sort of campaign on SoundCloud where you could get a chance the week before to listen to it, to listen to songs leading up. And I think this is like so brilliant. Like, so big up to his team, you know, for that kind of innovation in the thing. Also, people think that, you know, being in the streets, you have a term that's in the streets. Yeah, man, you have to be in the streets. So what does it mean? Yeah, well, you're going to go to every party. If you're not a party man, then what? But it's not just the parties, be at the runs, be at the, you know, at the charity events, be at the blood drives. Get your photographs taken with other celebrities who are bigger than you as well, you know, who are smaller than you as well, because they can get bigger than you too, right? And just generally be visible in that way because this also helps you not to be a celebrity necessarily, you know, but just your cause in general, right? Also, you'll find that when you, bless you, when you're going on tour and applying for like work permits and that, newspaper clippings, you know, all of these blog photos, all of those things are going to help your tangibility and show that you're, you know, a solid artist that's out there doing the work, both locally and overseas, right? And of course, you know, general social visibility. Who's on your team now? All right. This is a tricky one because I heard someone in a seminar before saying, well, you need to get an attorney, you need to get a business, you know, that's true. Everything costs money, all right? What happened to your brethren who was in law school, who went to high school with you? What happened to your producer friend who is on the air now on fire? What happened to your mommy who is good at writing a proposal to a corporate sponsor, etc. Right? You get the picture. The idea is that your team, outside of those nice textbook terms you see up there, your team is really going to be your brethren and sister all around. Everybody who is impressed with you and really likes what you're doing and sees the vision of what you're doing, right? Deborah mentioned earlier about the business side of it. You must absolutely have a financial or business manager. This is going to be different from your regular manager because it's two different skill sets, you know. You might have somebody who's good at the parties, good at getting the shows, good at making that network link, but they're terrible at accounting. So you have to have that transparency there from the get-go, right? Also, your ground troops we mentioned that already. Collateral team, what's a collateral team? Well, those are the people who are going to come to your show. You're going to specially put 2 out of your 10 guest passes at the shows to let them come in with their video camera and their team and their photographers and their journalists, etc., because they're going to build up all your collateral and give you that resonance after you've left that city or that town or that country, right? Producers, of course, the great Mikey Bennett is here and many others. You know, we've had the pleasure of working with Mikey. Extremely humble. When, I mean, we were nobody when he brought us in, not only taught us, you know, gave us voice coaching on our albums, but also arranging songs in every way. And I mean, Mikey is a really humble, fantastic individual. You know, a lot of other artists, rather producers out there like that, who are very approachable. Uncle Dean Fraser is another one of them like that for us. Sly Dunbar, another one, you know. And there are tons of them who, their name alone, being on your music for those people starting in the industry, will give you a boost, believe me, because people go, oh, what, Mikey produced that? You know, they'll listen to it more because somebody like Mr. Bennett has produced it, right? That's not to discount new producers, of course, because they're coming with the fresh air, modern concepts, new technology, new tools, big up Natural High in the place, who are, working together now. They are fresh producers in the game as well, who have big respect for Mikey and others as well. Right? The media, definitely we have to be friends with the media. Jose, my brethren, and, all the people behind the video cameras and the equipment backstage. Everybody in the industry on a technical standpoint, it's good to have a good rapport with these people. When you go on stage to sing, they can turn off your microphone. And they can turn up your feedback. They can do all these nice things to you. So in general, it's good to be good. Right? Distributors now, again, because of the digital revolution, this is becoming way easier than it used to be. Before, unless you're on a major label, it's going to be super difficult because you're working with maybe a choice of 20 to 50 major players. Now, there are, digital distributors here in Jamaica, Zinc Beats, my friend Chris Edmonds is one, very good one. There are tons of others that are based all around, in America, Europe, all around that, have a vested interest in Caribbean music, in reggae music, in Jamaican music, and it's fairly easy to get involved because I think they're more hungry to get the material than not right now, especially based on what's happening with the revival, and they see the tides turning, as they say, right? Radio and TV liaison, again, Carlette, I have to keep beginning up because Carlette worked at Smile Jamaica and helped us to get on TV a bunch of times, right? And again, by doing things like working with the radio stations on charity drives and other things, these are ways that you can also get a little extra push for your music as well as your own persona being pushed out there, okay? Social media gets its own slide. Again, I'm not a big expert on it. We have a manager who's based in Florida who really is excellent at it. I used to think that he just take pictures at the session and post them up and put a cute little comment and that's it. But there's actually a scientific way you can do it. And it's prudent to get somebody who understands this side of the business because it's one of those scientific measures now that people who are booking you for the money, they're measuring you off of these things. What's your Facebook likes? What's your Twitter following? What's your YouTube views, right? These are some of the things they're asking you at the show. If you don't have over 200,000 YouTube views, they're not spending more than $1,000 on your fee for the band. That's it, right? You're just going to be one of those regular bands that come in every night, and they make money on the bar, and they're happy to have you there as entertainment. How do you become that band who is getting 50 grand, right? Like the great Junior Gang who goes to the Wild here in Chicago, and they can only hold 400 people. But his fee is more than the money they can possibly make, even if them sell off the bar. Why do they do it? Because he's Junior Gang. And because if they have him at his club, the club will forever make money afterwards. So it's things like that with the branding that we want to get all our artists to like at least have that in their vision, have that sort of achievement in their vision. A pre-planned and scheduled activity, of course, as I mentioned, and staying on the cutting edge, not just of music, but of everything international, the fracking, in my case, of course, I'm big in environmental work. So fracking is one, reforestation, things like these are always front of mind for us, right? Strategic purchase of advertisements and boosts, that's another thing people kind of look by. Oh, yeah, Facebook going on well, but it's really just like any other media. You have to pay money to get it to be super effective, right? Merchandising is another Merchandising is another section that's kind of like not viewed well, but as a guerrilla band and also as a touring band, this can now take over the chunk on your pie, actually, right? And I'm going to look at a music pie in a second, but you have to have a great logo, you have to have good designs, you have to have great quality, not just your music, but all your collateral, your t-shirts, your caps, your lighters, your whatever you're coming with, it has to be the top of the top, right? And by doing this and by differentiating your products in this way too, you can also stand out. I'll mention Soulja, who, before they even play a note on stage, they've sold 10,000 US in merchandise every night, right? Because the fans come, and to them it's like, I need to buy a shirt and a CD and put on my shirt and then sing every song with a Soulja lighter in my hand. And that's just the way they've developed it after years and years of touring, right? To have a great message, not just in each song, but overall, what you stand for, what you are, is very important as well. As you mentioned before, it has to be something bigger than the band. Like people might like your music, but they love it if you love to plant trees, for example, right? To be lean and mean, of course, you don't have no one, we used to suffer from the entourage problem. Man coming to the dance and it's 70 man walking with you, right? So if you're going on tour, MC Hammer became bankrupt because he used to tour with 80 people, which is just like ludicrous, right? Yeah, exactly. Right. And you can do setups of pre-orders. Now we have things like, you know, there are different internet sites that we can do commerce over. PayPal is one chief one we use to do internet orders. So people who love your music in areas that you have not toured yet, just by virtue of digital spread, and they want a T-shirt, they want a Chant and Plant shirt, you know, and they can order it in Melbourne or in New Caledonia, and we can ship it to them, etc. Right? Again, I'm going to send this out to everybody interested, so you don't have to spend time going it like a class, but in this music pie, you see the big red one, that's supposed to be record sales now, and it's still not even 1/4 of what you're dealing with, right? And this is just, there's digital, there's video, etc. You're talking about 1%, 2%, 3%, 5% in earnings. But why does a manager take 10%? Think about that. You know, don't flounce on the 2%, because if you have 2%, that's 10%, right? So these are just also things that, like, if you understand the financial aspect of it, you don't go, oh, sure, YouTube thing, not a foolishness, or, oh, that little, because they all add to your thing. You know, you track your publishing, you have everything logged and registered properly, so you know exactly where you're at. Alternative revenue source, I know I have 1 or less minutes now, so I've run through. Band sponsorship, which is generally after, you know, you've created that image for your band, like, we are this thing, and no matter what record we come out with, you're going to love us, and we're not going to break from that format. Tour sponsorship is less involved because that can be one-offs, and you can find relevant brands, new brands, like Raw Paper sponsored us, for example, Blackwell Rum. There are different brands that sponsor us from time to time, and then we have like a standing sponsor who is a soil company, Aurora Innovations, and they always sponsor us, right? Loans, again, you know, financial institutions are there, as Deborah mentioned earlier. Scotia is there in different aspects. Merchandise we talked about earlier. Touring, don't leave out Jamaica, because you can tour, as the Great Chronics is showing you, in Jamaica too, and you can make it be a success, right? And then in linkage industries, we're talking about other things such as, you know, just how your music is going to transcend, like what, you know, how do we make our song Farming become the anthem for the agriculture minister, etc., right? Just ways for you to connect the thing out there that it's not just the regular channels, you're finding new and innovative channels to deal with it, you know. Of course, publishing, mega important. Get a publishing company to cover you, because that's how you can make lots of money in the long run, and it can also be a very strong way to keep track of your worldwide spread, right? Cost cutting, of course, is going to be the flip side of how you make money, because it's all about making money, right? Cost cutting. Diva thing is over, right? First class flights, up to you, you're paying for it. Individual room in the penthouse, up to you, you're paying for it. All right, Hennessy and Crystal and whatever else in the green room, up to you, you're paying for it, right? Special bus nightliner with DVD and all the amenities, you're paying for it, right? You must know what these things are. Not granted, you're going to have a level of image that helps you to sell your thing, so the bigger you look is the more people will spend on you too. So we're not going to say you must always smile down the thing, but be reasonable with how you're spending your money, right? Work harder, definitely. Make sacrifices. Learn the ins and outs of your balance sheet. Always. The balance sheet changes, like every time something new comes up in the technology, your balance sheet just changed. So understand how it's changed, right? Diet and exercise, mega important. You cannot be rich if you're not fit. You have to work out, you have to train, you have to do whatever it takes to keep your mind up there, to keep your ideas there, to keep your health levels there in whatever the climate, right? Multitasking is another way you cut costs, because you get the singer to do interviews, or to go to the blood drive, or to plant trees, or to do some other thing. You get the guitarist to write a bio, whatever the case may be, when you start out, until you can assemble a correct team, right? Be true passionate. Oh, sorry, I've skipped ahead to social cause. We touched on this again. Be bigger than the band. Our thing, of course, is called Roots Relief, where we do everything with the environment, we're into it. We have the REAP project in schools, we have Roots Relief internationally, and we have the Chant and Plant Artists for Environment movement we're starting this year now. The idea is that you might not like my music, but you must like to eat food, and you must like to breathe clean air and drink fresh water. You must like that. So you might not like what I'm singing about, but you will help me in this other way somehow, right? And by doing that, you can't fake it. You have to do something that you're really loving and you're really all about, because it's going to be all your life. You're going to be doing it after the curtain comes down too, right? And of course, this will definitely open new avenues for you, your art, for the band members, new job opportunities that you're creating for your team as well. I think that'll be it. I'm out of time, Uncle. Thank you, everybody.
You know a name that begins with B and end in Y? Eh? Well, after at the beats, we welcome Carlette. Please welcome her. Beauty.
Thank you very much. Wow. So as the last presenter between yourselves and being able to question this wonderful panel, I will be brief, and that's the excuse I'm using. I'm not going to make mention of the fact that standing up here in front of many of my mentors, many of my colleagues, many of my father's good friends, many of my mother's good friends, it is a little nerve-wracking, but we will get through very, very quickly. Thank you very much, Chairman, and thank you to the panel. Thank you to everyone. Thanks especially to the panel for going through the overall aspect of different ways that we can make money in the business. Everyone has spoken specifically to how the business has changed and new ways to make money. So I'm going to go a little bit more specific rather than general, because as Mikey Reynolds and I spoke about, you know, by the time you get to me, you might have heard everything you need to hear from this wonderful panel. In my short presentation today, I hope to provide evidence that the multi-billion-dollar international music industry is alive and well. Locally, Statin has estimated that the cultural industries, of which music is a part, has contributed upwards of 5% to the GDP. There are several new paradigms, as the panel alluded to making money in the music business, but I'm going to focus on just one of them. I want to narrow it down and bring it to brass tacks, because by now, we want to know how we make some money, eh? In some ways, we earn money in the ways we always have. We make great music, that's where it starts. We build a strong brand, as Stephen alluded to, and then we sell it. Sounds fairly simple. But it has changed, and it's always changing, in fact. It's the way we sell it that changes. From sheet music, right, from the 1920s and 30s, to vinyl records, cassette tapes, CDs, airplay, live performances and appearances, all the presenters spoke to that. Publishing and sync rights, very important. Sponsorships, merchandising, digital downloads, and now streaming. Yes? Let us briefly examine what is streaming, why it is so popular, what is the revenue potential, who is making money, and finally, and perhaps most importantly, how they are making money so that we can make some money ourselves. Eh? I can't find key with a locksmith, so I'm never going to make money as a musician, but hopefully some of you will be able to take these principles with you. Streaming, and I take it that most of us are familiar with all of these terms, but briefly, it's digital music that is transmitted but not downloaded for the listener. Streaming is like a one-time license to listen to a track. And if they want to listen again, they have to get another license. That's kind of what it's like. The cost to the listener for the license, advertising. It's not quite free, but it's pretty close. Musicians all around the world are making money from ad-supported streaming of their music right this minute. And good money too, right? We mentioned that earlier. But it's not just around the world. Jamaican musicians are making good money from ad-supported music right this minute. And good money too on YouTube and other services. As Dr. McNaughton hinted, there are other services like Pandora, iTunes Radio, Spotify, but from my personal perspective, there is none more popular or easier to access for both listeners and musicians as YouTube. So let's briefly look at the numbers. Google pays 55% of its revenues to rights owners. And as Lenny White will attest, not just musicians, but content creators of all kinds. But we're going to focus on music for today. This works out to roughly, very roughly, because I can't do the math. I went to Billboard, about $2 for every 1,000 views. So according to digitalspy.com, Rihanna's estimated earnings from YouTube alone, remember the pie that Stephen had up? From YouTube alone last year, $4.15 million. So she didn't have, as you said, it's very easy to distribute. She didn't have to sing another note. She didn't have to perform. She didn't have to do anything else other than the content that she had and placed on YouTube, and earned $4.15 million. And she was not the top earning artist. Right? Sky News reports that YouTube has paid out over $1 billion to rights owners in Australia, not even around the world. So local musicians, including Bob Marley, don't publish the revenue information they get. So I can't quote figures for local artists. So you'll have to trust me and my anecdotal evidence that they are making money. But let's look at the figures we can see. Head Concussion TV, arguably one of the most popular music sites on YouTube. 108,000 subscribers, 71 million views. Remember what I said? Roughly $2 US for every 1,000 views. 71 million views. I'll let other people do the math. Spice Official Vivo, 69,000 subscribers, 25 million views. VP Records, 172,000 subscribers, 238 million views. Right? So I will admit, it's not as simple as flinging up a crappy music video and collecting at the bank, as Clyde alluded to. There's a lot of culture out there. So we still have to make good music. Right? And it requires a strategic effort. It's not just, hey, we're doing it today and we make money tomorrow. Let's move on to the meat of the matter. Before any video is posted, it starts with great music and a strong brand. The mechanics of brand building are for another forum and have been alluded to here. But the details of it we can get into at another time. So let's assume for now that you have a great brand and a new YouTube channel. There are some basic areas which require attention to build your audience, and I'll go through very quickly since it was alluded to before. Artwork must pop. After all, YouTube is a visual forum. Playlists must be multiple and relevant so they truly engage your audience. Video descriptions need to be detailed. I've seen too many videos and you're trying to get information about it and there's nothing in the description. And besides that, those video descriptions can be leveraged to generate actual sales of your track if you put in appropriate links to iTunes, Amazon, Spotify, Google, and the range of services that are out there. Videos need to roll out on a strategic schedule in tandem with your master plan to satisfy your subscribers because they want new content all the time. Videos need to be creative. But you're all creators, so I'm not even concerned about that. I'm sure that goes without saying that you can make creative videos to engage your audiences. And tags and metadata must be included, right? You'll find out more a little later on. A fully optimized YouTube channel generates income primarily from advertising. Google offers a plethora of options which advertisers truly love. They can do banner ads, they can do pre-roll ads, they can do demographic targeting ads, all sorts of things, right? And each of them has a different revenue rate. But a channel can also generate income from sponsorship and branded content. When you get really popular, even before YouTube pays you money, brands, corporate sponsors are going to come to you for placements. They want to be mentioned in your video. They want their brand seen in your video. So you can make money from that as well. Global superstars have access to Vivo, a joint partnership between Google, Universal Music Group, and other big giants, right? But we have access to other independent agencies which can provide YouTube optimization services for favorable returns. And why I like the indies is because favorable returns are important. Spoke about the math. See, I'm trying to bring it all together. The 55% that's paid over to the rights owner has to be split among everyone who has vested interest in the track. So this list includes the DJ or the singer, the band members, the songwriter, the musician, the producer, the record label, the music publisher, and that list goes on. Depending on the deal, it might include the music video director, right? And after you get the money, you have to pay the manager, the lawyer, the publicist, to make sure that that money is spread out. So that list is daunting, but I have good news. Good news. A fully optimized YouTube video truly exploits Content ID. This is an interesting term, Content ID. Introduced last year, Content ID made it possible to make what I consider to be real money without alienating fans or sending out dozens of expensive cease and desist orders. Right? As Billboard explains it, Content ID allows rights holders to receive reference files on content they own, metadata describing that content, and policies to help them choose what they want YouTube to do with that content, which is monetize it, track it, or block it. No, let's not do the blocking part, right? Once they find videos they match. Now, remember Harlem Shake? We're not doing a Harlem Shake video for the people in Montego Bay? No? All right, fine. At its peak, there were over 4,000 uploaded videos featuring the song with 30 million views, right? With Content ID, the Harlem Shake rights owners made money off every single view. They didn't have to have Harlem Shake on their channel. They didn't have to run to fans and say, no, 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 take that down because I want to make sure people watch it on our page so we can make money. Once the metadata was in that file and uploaded to YouTube, every time someone put up a spoof, put up a lyric video, put up a dancer video, which is very, very popular, especially in our culture, every single time that video played on YouTube, without lifting a finger, without doing anything, thanks to the power of the digital medium, they made money. Now musicians can encourage their fans to repost videos, add them to their playlists, make their own lyric videos. I've even made some fan videos myself. I won't tell you where to find them. It might be embarrassing. All right? So that makes you money. But if you want to make more money, you need compelling content. It's not just enough for viewers to visit your channel. They need to stay and watch. Longer views mean more ad revenues, which means that you make more money. Want to make even more money than the money that you made before and the money you made on top of that? Sponsored content. A strong subscriber base and high viewership, because it's not one without the other, can attract sponsors interested in product placements, mentions, and other exposures. Want to double down on the money that you make? You haven't made enough money yet, right? Right? None of us here in this room are rich yet. Right? Ensure that your YouTube rollout plan complements and capitalizes on your wider marketing plan to build your brand and sell your music. I think every single presenter made mention of that fact today. The strategic plan, the brand, the music, each of them important. So in closing, let me quickly recap. Rights holders can make 55%, which is a fairly good split, on advertising revenues on YouTube and additional revenue through sponsorship. Moneymakers are leveraging their great music and their strong brands to attract viewers, subscribers, advertisers, sponsors, and parlaying that into other revenue opportunities. They also optimize their YouTube channel with Content ID, with including captivating content and a strategic plan. If you ask me, what is the new paradigm for making money in music today? The answer is YouTube. Tomorrow, it might be SoundCloud, right? But unfortunately, we'll have to wait for another forum to discuss that one. Thank you so very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, whoa, whoa, what a team. I am announcing publicly, therefore, that I'm selecting this team because I'm coming out in a new garb as Rabin Rap. I'm the answer to Gulliver. We're open to questions. Please use the microphones, direct your questions. I don't want comments. I like questions. Please give your name and affiliation, if any. And we're open for questions now, ladies and gentlemen. There are refreshments afterwards, but I'm asking you to keep it as straight questions. Okay.
Good evening.
Yeah, it's on, it's on.
Wonderful panel, wonderful presentation. My name is Desmond Stewart, floundering in the music industry for years, but that's another story. There's a question that I'd like to ask that I think Ms. De Leon and Mr. Bennett could answer. Content. Does the future recognize content of the song? How do a Jamaican song put a move on my heart? It's very difficult to do that in 2015. how does a Jamaican song put a move in my heart? There's a lot of songs out there that you can jump, but they're not moving me.
Well, like we mentioned, it's about the experience, whether the experience is in a dance or is in your house. People ask me all the time, how you know a hit? And I always use this. You're driving home late in the night and you kind of feel scared. And a song starts to play. And you get to your home and you're dying to get inside. Boy, you can't leave the song. You're touched, and they're different. I don't do dance all anymore, not because I don't think I can do it, but because I think it's a communication between young people. So I'm not trying to pretend to be a teenager anymore. So I have to be true to my thing. So and it's not just a reggae thing. One of my biggest concerns about even among black Americans is like we almost relinquishing that soul thing to the white guys. It's pure white kids singing soul music nowadays because it's just a question of is what people feel in the bling and the caught up in all the various thing and everybody. So I think a lot of insecurity is coming out and people using all kind of distractions. So so it's about wine, but it's what people want. So there must be a song out there that you can, maybe not a lot of them. Cause I have a problem finding that song that really I want to add to my list. So maybe once we pass a certain age, we have to just go back to the old favorites. And it's not a bad thing, you know what I mean?
Good evening. Michael Whittle, my name. I really appreciate the presentation tonight. I think Clyde and Mike, we talk all the while from a different, but at first I really meet you and I'm really very impressed, Appreciate it. I just want to know how important quality of music is. I haven't said very much about that. And Mike alluded to the quality of performance, which is very striking. That's an area to improve. But the other thing is, how do the other art forms combine in your presentation of music as an integrated cultural experience?
Well, if I may, because again, quality is subject to the beholder in a sense. But what you find happening, right, and in the first presentation we spoke about scaling down the money and that things are getting lesser in terms of cost, and that's not necessarily so. And the reason is that, for example, a Polish band comes to Kingston, they have 2 weeks here, and in 2 weeks they record 10 tracks on an album, and they use the best saxophonist, trombonist, drummer, bassist, etc., right, for hire. When they go back, their little band listens to that recording, learns it by heart, and then plays it. And not only plays it, they have the best lighting, the lasers, everything else that we don't have. So it touches two of the things you're talking about. One is the performance aspect and one is the production aspect, right? We have to make music that is not just a vibes on my sound, on my lane. It has to be able to be played on international radio, right? There's, within production, there's sound quality standards that you have to meet, right? Also, this thing about, like, you just have a little vibes and you have to adjust it after the fact in pro-production. Like, certainly our band doesn't do that, and we encourage other bands not to do that because the quality is the only thing that's going to really make you stand up, right? The other bands out there, such as Revolution, Soja, Catch a Fire, Natty Roots, all of these bands who are reggae acts, non-Jamaican reggae acts who are the top 10 selling acts in US and Canada, right? All of their music, they get, like Soja, for example, has 2 horns players from Puerto Rico, right? And they do that whole drum circle thing in their show, which changes the dynamic for an international audience. And they're constantly changing. Revolution has done the same with bringing in jazz saxophonists into their band, right? In terms of the production side of it, it's hard because things cost. I don't know that we're paying the musicians or the studio rental any less, but the records are not selling. So for me, it could still cost you anywhere from 300 US to 500 US to make a song if you're not bringing in outside artists, right? Just as a ballpark, right? Are you really making back $5,000 to $10,000 on your advance on a record or on your record sales in 2 years? Probably not, right?
but you cannot compromise the quality because that's your only chance to get into the bigger sort of arena in music, you know.
I want to just come in here, Stephen. I think a very important aspect of maybe success is authenticity. To thine own self be true. You see, a lot of times we tend to get caught up with the moment and what is the flavor of the day. So if you are roots underground and your music might not be the music that is going to be popping in the dance hall, don't decide and say, well, you know what? Because my music is not popping in the dance hall, I want to create something to go inside there. I always believe that you don't create music for markets. I will have this mindset all the time that, you know, if this is a trend, we'll create music for it. You find markets for the music. Whatever the music is, there is a market. And it's for you to find that space where that music is going to be consumed so that you can have some kind of viable existence. So the most important thing for me is, as an artist, is authenticity. As a songwriter, you have, more latitude because you can write for other people. So you can be, a man who writes R&B or country music and you sit down right here in Jamaica. You know, that's possible. But when it comes to artists and whatever you're doing, I say, to thine own self, be true.
Thank you. And we're going to take 3 questions and then allow the panel some time. So if we can just introduce yourself, ask a question, and we'll take 3 and then we'll get to the others.
Good afternoon. My name is Timothy Kawa. I must say thank you to the panel. As a young musician, it was very helpful. We spoke a lot about how these new models can help the content holders as well as the artists. But as many of you know, there's a large support system behind the music before it reaches the stage. Our engineers, our songwriters, our session musicians. How do you see these new business models maybe helping them? And also, with the new digital revolution and the rise of streaming, YouTube, etc. Mainly speaking towards Spotify, Pandora, etc. Do you feel that this is a sustainable income source for artists and content holders when the price point is a little bit a fraction of a cent and kind of, the math? It requires a very large brand to acquire any real momentum. Do you feel it's a sustainable income source?
Hold on, we're just going to take...
It's open. It's open.
Yeah.
Whoever feels it can.
Yeah, okay. The person behind you we're taking 3 questions here and then we'll answer them. We'll ask the panel to answer.
Thank you. Good evening. Michael Edwards, music journalist and fan. And one specific issue and one general issue. The specific one, following on Carlet's presentation. Coming here, I saw an article on Forbes.com that spoke to Google's move to establish a upscale or upstream streaming service, which is potentially exclude a lot of independent artists, including some represented here. So I'd like to comment on that. And generally, in terms of everybody's presentation, and specifically Mr. McNaughton, I have a concern that we might be entering a phase of content with less context. And I would like your opinion on that. Thanks.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Yannick Library Banks, and I have a question about musicians who are not into reggae, because I don't know if I was just born into the wrong country. But as a singer and a classical pianist, and that's not to say I would even want to go into classical music, but just to use the training to do maybe pop or whatever. But I don't see where there's any avenue or any who would I speak to as a producer, so to go into that type of music that it's like it just appears as if Jamaica is only one type of music, whether it's reggae or dancehall. So if you could answer that question for me.
Okay, finally you want to start off. Please, Carlos. Okay, sit down. Microphone, please.
Oh no, this is better. I feel like all those artists that keep switching around mics when they're on stage. I'll speak to the matter of Spotify and the matter of YouTube, since my presentation was closer to those streaming services. Certainly, the advertising supported and subscriber-based streaming, that is Spotify, Pandora, and even iTunes Music, is not very lucrative, especially for independent artists, and in point of fact, isn't very lucrative for even big artists, as Taylor Swift pointed out when she pulled her music from Spotify. And where we are in a state of flux. There was a time when MP3 sales were making us lots of money, and now that streaming has come along, we need to find a new paradigm, for want of a better word, as to how to make money out of it. I wish I had a crystal ball to tell you exactly where we would end up, because then we could all make some money. And I'm not sure how it will change, but certainly it is cause for concern that they are just pennies on the dollar. Our music has value and people want to hear it. And considering that the cost of delivering the content is so low, as alluded to, there's really no reason why more money can't be paid over to artists. And just as how we had to fight when Napster brought in MP3s to set up a system where people could legitimately and easily buy MP3s, because what made it easier, iTunes, was easy. Previously, it was easier to go to Napster than to go through Sony digital rights protection and stuff to get MP3s. Once we get to a point where it is easy, then we'll find a new paradigm where people can make money, but we're not there yet, and I can't tell you exactly where it's going. With regards to the YouTube premium service, that's a cause for concern, because it puts them in the realm of Spotify and Pandora, and it makes it very much harder for independent artists to come on up. So we're going to see where that trend goes to. Another concern of mine with YouTube is that they've also changed their policies. So if Roots on the Ground did a wonderful video on YouTube that held up a Scotiabank sign in the video, YouTube would shut down the video and say, no, Scotiabank should have come to us for it. And that's the trend that they're moving to kill some sponsored content. But they're allowing other things. So if Stephen walked into a Scotiabank and you see the branding in the video, they're not necessarily pulling that down. But if all of a sudden there's a placard that comes up that says sponsored by, they're looking to move that. So the hard sell. The point is the music is changing continually, and we need to stay ahead of the trends. We need to stay informed, and we need to keep moving. So I don't have all the answers, except to say that we can't just sit back and say, oh, don't worry, when our PRS check come in, we're good. We really have to stay ahead of the game.
Yeah, it comes down to is supply and demand, it's business. The better your product is, the greater the opportunity to sell it. The easier it is to be sold. Your product now, no disrespect, I'm not interested in Spotify or YouTube, and none of us here should be. Let me give you a statistic. The song Happy only received about $25,000 in total. It was played 43 million times. So let us forget about Spotify and Anthony. What I want young artists in Jamaica to do is go talk to Carol Laws, talk to Lantoinette, find some coaches. It is your show that is going to make you money. That experience that people have when they come to see you perform. So first of all, you have to do a talent audit. Most people cannot do it, because every week somebody call me and say, boy, I have a niece or a nephew and things. I heard a saying yesterday, and I've been trying to use it, and I'm going to try now. They say in the Jewish community, the money moves around 6 times, the dollar passes around 6 times before it leaves that Jewish community. What needs to happen in Jamaica, just like our parents trying to get the coat for them child, we have to encourage aunties who have like a trust fund and thing. Once there is talent in your family, make a call. Call me. Call somebody who you think, no, is there potential here? There's a lot of money being wasted in Jamaica, being wasted on non-talented people. And I see it every day. People come book out the studio, and that don't have no chance. Too old, just cannot sing. But let us not try and fool ourselves. I'm not in that kind of person. I'm not here to make everybody feel good. The Jamaica music industry in a serious way. It's not a problem to get it, but we have to set some things. We have to talk some truths now. There's a lot of rubbish. 90% of the stuff that's being played on the radio shouldn't be played. Let's not start there. 80% of the songs that are played on the radio get played one time. So you can imagine all that time and money that is being spent on doing them kind of stuff. So what it's doing now, we're talking about YouTube and thing, is a big jungle with a lot of trees. So if your tree not red and pretty with a lot of money behind it, it's almost as you never put it up. Because there's so much stuff on YouTube right now that is of poor quality that it does up the line. Jamaica, just like how we're known for athletics, we need to get back to the point where people become known for putting out the best stuff. Not as much rubbish, but some good stuff. And you can start with artists. Somebody have to, don't just talk to your little friends. You need to do some talent audit. Do I really have what it takes to reach there, to get to that 5,000? Then you move on. So we have people like Clyde, we can help you with career paths. And it's something that can be taught. Like I said, it's art, but there's a science of performance. Lantoinette Science came into a rehearsal I had with a group, and in 5 minutes she made me understand what it was to be on a stage performing to people. A lot of our artists don't know. Them say Beanie Man successful, them say Ninja Man. So half of the dancehall artists trying to be Beanie Man, the other half trying to be Ninja Man. And none of them can be those people as good as they are. So there must be a way to teach young artists how to connect with an audience that is not your fan base. So here you go into a place and two Jamaicans in the place, but the rest of it is people who just curious, heard about reggae, heard about Bob Marley. Entertain me. Share an experience with me. What is life like in Jamaica? What do you do in Jamaica when this rhythm plays? These are some of the things that we need to be looking at. How we're going to use all of your art forms that we have mastered, the dance, everything, to make the product one that people really want to share.
Big point, Mikey. I want to follow up on the points you have made. Critical to the whole process of handling your career as an artist is who you select as your management team, particularly who heads your management or who is responsible for the day-to-day running of your business. Because management is a significant form of value creation. If you have a good manager, it means that in a negotiation where you would get 5%, you get 15%, because that person knows how to go through the spaces and ask the right questions. I have seen situations in which artists have been bamboozled and have gotten almost nothing because they have people in their management team who don't know what is supposed to be done. And as Mikey said, when you know a Carol Laws who can teach you about performance and Lantoinette and those people, you need management that has that capacity to know, because there are two types of knowledge. Either you're going to know what the thing is about, or you know where to find it. So you say, well, look, I don't know about video, but I'm going to call Lenny, because this is a man who knows about that. And that's the first thing we have to identify. Because if we sit here all the time, because it's important to have people in your team who you really trust. I mean, when I do business, I like know some my nephew down there, so I'm in there. You understand? But at the same time, I know that we have to be mindful of capacities. And it can't be just a friend thing when you're doing business. You want loyal people. Yeah, because you want a man who's your chef. Be a man where you really trust to carry your food come. But after that, you have to be able to make sure that the person is not only trustworthy, but the person is professional. Because just being a fan is not enough. And people, the other thing about your management, they have to have connection. The Rolodex that your manager have is very critical because, mind you, I mean, that is kind of dates me because now, this is a digital thing we're talking about now. You understand? But that is the contacts, critical to the business. One thing I want to say, you see, publishing, we need to pay a lot of attention to publishing because it's one of the more secure forms of income for people, particularly songwriters, artists who write songs. You see, most of the other aspects of your earnings are still governed mostly by contracts. The fact is, your income when it comes to songwriting is usually governed by legislation, which means that all the changes that are taking place in the music industry, a lot of it do affect publishing because you see legislation, they move slowly and they take years. So what is happening is that many of the arrangements that exist in the business as far as publishing is concerned 10 years ago still exist today. And that is very, very important.
Maurice, you had one?
Well, I wanted to address the young lady, the pianist there. I know it's a very good friend of mine. Yes, you're correct in saying that, like, we do get pigeonholed a lot to just be the stereotype that if it's Jamaican, definitely it's only going to be a certain type of music. No, unfortunately, that's a view held here more than anywhere else, right? And you have to take the advantage of the social media and the internet to kind of reach out to where your music can be appreciated in that way, because there are avenues, absolutely, you know. I have friends who are alternative poets, etc., from here, that their thing couldn't really take off very well. There's no venue, there's no appreciation, etc., and they move to London or they move to Paris or somewhere else, and their thing is, I mean, they're living off of it now, right? So, for sure, just like in other areas, other vocations, you know, they're great Jamaican doctors, they're great Jamaican athletes, philosophers, etc., art, you know, visual artists. In that very same way, don't make the existing stereotype limit you, right? Also, I wanted to talk about the performance aspect, because while we're talking about how the artists need to work on their performance, that is very true, and we do need to seek professional help and the resources that's there, but it's also a concert factor, right? Because what you see happening is, if you even get 15 minutes to perform a brethren and sister, believe me, that's a good amount of time. Because there's, as Mikey said, 100 artists on the bill, right? While we keep on doing a show like this, one of my Rasta elders, Profi, said one time, him only go $1,000 show when it's 3 artists. Because at least he's going to get $300 artists, right? You know what I'm saying? If you go $1,000 show and it's 100 artists, it's pure $10 artists you get. So, but that affects the quality of the performance, because, you know, we went to Busy Signal in Europe. Busy confessed him couldn't remember the second verse of any of his songs, right? Reason why is here in Jamaica, I'm not going that way, right? That's the paradigm. You sing 10 seconds because you're under this clock pressure, right? You don't get to express your charisma. You don't get to bring the audience with you to this place like Burning Spear, someone mentioned, right? You don't get the opportunity. Burning Spear played for 3 hours. Right? Burning Spear started the show half hour, before we sing a note. We right now, especially as young artists, my friend, you know it, if you get on the bill, your name is not on it, your picture is not on it, and if it is, you still only get 10 or 15 minutes, which is 3 songs, right? So my advice, just like our band did when we were younger, is try to find those venues where, you know, you can be, you know, under that pressure. You bring your own people in, you bring your own fans. That's what Jamnesia did with that reggae revival successfully, right? Where artists could go out there and work 1 hour, and people could go, oh wow, Protege is really a prolific lyricist, or Chronix really is an excellent singer, you know? We weren't able to do that if they were just to follow the regular trend of the thing, right? Also, I want to say, now, because of what's happening with these things, there's a whole heap of doors opening up now. Not just venues, promoters are becoming more interested because they see money's there to be made as well, right? So more promoters, more sponsors, more venues who've been around from your band, you know, are now saying, hey, we want to do a live night. So I think that the artists also need to kind of get together, and, you know, the money thing is tough, yes, because it's still going to be for no money. But at least if you can start building these venues where people can come watch you, the big benefit you're getting is getting your show tight, right? Even if nobody don't come, Or if 5 people come, you can practice, you do your show 1 hour, and you play like you're playing for Madison Square Gardens, every show, every rehearsal. And after a little while, you'll find that like you are getting to be that top quality artist. You know, your confidence level is there. Your dancing skills, whatever it is on stage that you need to have to kind of penetrate that bigger market.
Maurice, you had a question on the technology. I'm only going to take 2 more questions after this because we're going to wrap up, and refreshments are downstairs. We can continue the discussion with our panelists over refreshments.
Yeah, I think the specific question was one that Michael asked about whether we're getting so preoccupied with content, and in particular the ability of the digital medium to replicate content, and whether we're losing sight of context. And I would say, and I guess these are truisms, but they say content is king, but context matters. It matters enormously. I think it comes back to what was articulated several times both by Mikey and Stephen, that a lot of the context comes from the performance. So you can't, as yet, replicate that context with the digital medium. Maybe when we get to Star Trek time and you can say holodeck, create a performance in Jamaica at some fest from it, then maybe that will work. But the context comes from the story behind the music. It comes from the context within which it is performed. And that is incredibly powerful in creating that experience that lasts beyond just the digital content that you can download from a site or you can stream from Spotify. So I think it is incredibly important. And for the moment, I think that is a differentiator for many of our artists.
Thank you. 2 more questions, please, and then we wrap up.
Good night. All right. Good job, by the way, very informative. Okay, I'd like to ask a question on behalf of producers. Especially, I realize you talk a lot about shows, for instance, when artists do shows. Now, I want to touch on royalties and publishing. When a producer signs up with JCAP, right, as a songwriter or composer, is there enough being done in Jamaica to like regulate in terms of like shows and performances when songs are being played for producers? Because I don't get the feeling that there's enough being done in that aspect. Because I think JCAP, like, I don't think JCAP is doing enough for the artists or producers itself. But what is being done to oversee that, especially with shows for promoters, like regulation, like having to pay, and also radio stations? Because I hear a lot of things about radio stations not really paying or having a list.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. Last question.
Good night. Von Brown, I'm affiliated with Psycho Black Records, a fairly young entity. All right, this is a question that I'd like to ask. It's pertaining to voiceovers and children music. You know, sometimes you find out that artists from overseas and come and take Jamaican music, then change the rhythm, change up the flavor, everything, carry back overseas, and then say, oh, we have something new, in which we all know that this is a Jamaican thing. Now, how do you cease and desist that from happening? Because them do it, and they make this waka money, and we just look at, oh, they do that all. You know, so that is one thing. The other one about YouTube. Everything have a fine print to it. What are the fine prints in, for example, me upload my video on YouTube? What are the fine prints to say, all right, this is that and that is this, in order to get money from my video uploads and my views? Because everything have a fine print. Because I'm not going to just use ignorance and, yeah, I get 500 to my thing shot now, or I get money. So that is the question.
Okay.
Talk about the royalties thing is a sore topic because, of course, there were a lot of problems with JCAP, as you might have seen in the news. I know you've been following it up. I mean, there was a big thing in the Observer where a lot of artists were really raising Cain about what was happening. I believe the management has changed a lot and so forth, but it's prudent of you to just use your own best judgment as what you think out there as a writer society is, you know, I mean, don't just talk to Jamaicans, talk to everybody worldwide, because digitally your thing is global. So you need to definitely find out who's going to pay you and who has their thing that they're reporting is transparent, as well as what is coming to you is payable. Also, the next mistake people make is if you don't have your thing registered, your catalog registered correctly, there's no money, my brethren. Right? So a lot of artists, oh, the thing I play on me up, thing on me. They check it out, there's no points for them on the song, or it wasn't registered with any writers association, etc. So that's also an issue.
No, I want to say one thing. JCAP and JAMS, some of the collective management organizations, what has been happening is that they are now relying on sampling of airplay for one, BMAT, that is one of the systems they are employing so that it allows the owners of the music to get a better handle on what is happening in terms of the use of their music. I think I have seen situations in which JCAP and JAMS have gone to organizations, I'm not going to call any names, for the use of music and the use of their members, and have met stiff resistance because we have a culture here that is not understanding that when you use people's music for public performances, that it's supposed to be paid for. And therefore, there are many, many, many functions which are supposed to pay for the use of music, and it's not happening. So it's a challenge to some of these organizations and these collective management organizations. So it's a two-edged thing. One last thing I want to say, though, and that is with regards to marketing of music. I have a difficulty sometimes in Jamaica with the many divisions that we create as far as our music is concerned, whether it be age and, style and all of that. And part of what I would like to see, I look at a Lady Gaga and I see her teaming up with a Tony Bennett. I look and I see my friend David Madden and inside here, and I'm saying, how is it that, we don't have more of this kind of cooperative effort among our artists? Because when you're doing that, if you are a young artist and you team up with an older act, what you're doing is introducing your music to that older audience and vice versa. And I am thinking that this kind of artificial division that we have in terms of our music consumption could be gotten rid of, or at least you could take down some of that kind of barrier if sometimes we have more of these kind of collaboration across genres, across age group, across styles. Because I think what we need to do is to broaden the appeal of our music all across the spectrum.
Yeah, and as I bring this towards a close, I'll just make a comment that if you live long enough, you see things come back around. What happens is that we don't remember. So David Madden, the reggae trumpeter, and I would remember that in the 60s when we started out, there was a lot of Jamaican music which we called rocksteady, which were actually takeoffs of B music in country western that had never made it to the #1. And so we have a lot of careers built in the 1960s with people who were redoing country and western music. We skipped a generation, 2 generations, 3 generations, and 4 generations. So you find that the knockoff of an original song from America called Sea of Love, you know that song, all right, has come back around as a #1 hit 50 years later for Beres Hammond, who says, the same rhythm every time I think of saying goodbye, right? It's the exact same rhythm. So I'm saying we have to be mindful of this. Do we want copies? Do we want, because I'm certain the royalties don't exist in the same hierarchy when you're using somebody else's music, and they just put some new words to it. So, but we fool ourselves into saying, well, this is the greatest, as I heard Tony Reader say, but this is a sea of love rhythm. You know what I mean? And it really is something that we have to listen to what the panel has said tonight and try to figure out the mechanism of business, the structure that is going to give us a way to move music forward. That's the last thing I'm going to say, except for refreshments will be downstairs. I'd like you to remain. And I ask Janelle Brown, a member of our marketing team here at the Mona School of Business and Management, to do the vote of thanks. Janelle, over to you.
Hello. Good evening, everybody. I'm sure by the turnout, by the passion, by the interest, that everyone here is very excited and happy to have been here to have this discussion, which really encapsulates the sustainability of our creative industry, specifically the music industry, and how business can really support what's happening and we can all be profitable. To that end, I would like to say on behalf of the Mona School of Business and Management, a sincere thank you to our sponsors, Scotiabank, as well as Salada, for giving us the support necessary to have such a rich forum. We would now like to thank our presenters as well, who, give them a round of applause again. Definitely a superb set of views and insights. We were truly lucky to get such a talented and such an experienced set of persons to share their knowledge with us. At this time, we would like to invite Salada to come with their gift baskets, but while we're waiting for those to come up to the front, we would like to thank those who also helped to bring this event together. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. James Solomon, our chair, for really getting behind everybody and getting this group of persons together to have such an important and relevant discussion. I'd like to thank our marketing team, Ms. Janice Henlin, our marketing director, Judith Richardson, who has been just, a real rock for us, our support staff who did all of the heavy lifting, who got stuff in here, Mrs. Marvelyn Campbell, who is always here to make sure that everyone is seated and has what they need, our tech support team for getting all of our digital displays, our audio visuals, our streaming from UATV, all of that together, so that those who couldn't make it today were able to still benefit from what was discussed tonight. And of course, I'd like to thank you, our audience. It's a true testament. So many of you really stayed way out to the end and listened and added your questions. Thank you so much for coming out. And so now we want to make presentations. We can start with Dr. McNaughton. Thank you so much for giving your views and your very expert insights on technology and how that is affecting music and breaking that down for us. Thank you so much. We would like to thank Mr. Clyde McKenzie. Thank you so very much for coming and giving your views, a wholesome view on entertainment and how that really does, how that sphere works and what impact can be had. Thank you, Mr. McKenzie. Mr. Mikey Bennett, we're very glad that you have been so passionate and so real with us about what's really happening in music today. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Mr. Stephen Newland, thank you so much for giving a good artist perspective and really being so eloquent about the real nitty-gritty of what it is to be a touring artist especially. And Miss Carlette DeLeon, I smile more because Carlet is a mentor of mine. Thank you so much, Carlet, for giving a whole... Carlet can give so many different views from different perspectives, technology, and so on. Oh, so she's going to... So the publicist in Carlet has come out full force to make sure that the product is showing and the branding. And this is what you get when you get a good publicist. You get this for your music, too. So thank you so much, Carlet, for coming out and giving a good example. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. I hope that you had a great experience. Refreshments are available now.